Something Real Chapter 6. A few months down the road, Izzy and Carter were getting ready for a banquet his mom and dad went to every year. They would buy a table and invite their sons and their wives or dates. Paul is going to be here in about 10. Carter told her as they crossed each other in the hall. I just have to put my shoes on. Izzy passed him as she put her earrings in. I can't get this stupid tie to stay. Carter sighed. Come here. Izzy motioned to a stool in the corner. He sat on the stool and she stood behind him. My dad took me aside when I was like 7 and told me that one day I might have this super neat guy in my life, but he might not be able to tie a bow tie. Then he showed me how to tie it. She finished forming the bow and he walked over to the mirror. This is perfect. Carter turned to her. I guess that means I'm super neat now. Izzy chuckled and admired him in his tux. You look so hot. He turned to look at her. Not as good as you. He put his arm around her and pressed her to him. I could take you now. He leaned in and kissed her neck. That drives me crazy, you know that. Izzy giggled and ran her hands over his back. That's the idea. Carter chuckled into her neck. The two were both startled and a little disappointed by the doorbell. Who's Paul again? Izzy asked and slipped on her shoes. He's a buddy of mine who owns a limo service. Carter pulled his shoes on and walked to the hall. He's going to drive us personally tonight. Izzy grabbed her clutch and a wrap and watched Carter walk into the kitchen. He reached into the back of her refrigerator and pulled something out. He jogged over to the door and opened it. Sorry, we're coming. Carter told Paul, who was standing at the door, and shook his hand. Okay, penguin boy. Paul chuckled. Yeah. Carter walked back over to Izzy. I got you this the other day and hid it in the back of your fridge. Izzy looked at what was in the box for the first time. A corsage. No way. Carter smiled and looked at her. I have to do this right. He slipped the flowers on her wrist. I love it. Izzy secured Winchester in his kennel, and the two walked out to the limo. Paul was waiting with the door open. Izzy scooted in as Paul and Carter exchanged knowing grins. They arrived and greeted Marie and Greg. Izzy, you look beautiful. Marie exclaimed. You look fabulous. Izzy leaned in and told her with a giggle. I feel it. Marie breathed out. It's funny how a hair appointment and a pretty dress and do so much for us. I know, right? Marie's Texas twang was particularly heavy tonight. Honey, I know it's not for a couple of weeks, but plan for Christmas Eve at our house, okay? Yes, ma'am. Do I need to bring anything? Izzy asked with a smile. Marie gasped and grabbed her hand. You're such a sweetheart. You can do whatever you want, bring something or not. How about I bring my mom's homemade bread? That sounds great. Marie smiled. She was crazy about Izzy. It was easy for her to see what her son saw in the girl. Carter leaned into the two ladies. I'm sorry to disturb you, but I need a dance from this lovely lady here. Marie smiled at the couple as they walked out on to the dance floor with the others. Carter pulled her close and they danced to the slow music. I feel so pretty, Izzy commented for no particular reason as they danced. You're always beautiful, don't ever doubt that. Carter smiled at her. She grinned up at him and blushed a little. Score one for me. I made you blush. Carter chuckled, and this made her blush more. He leaned in and kissed her. I love you, Izzy. I love you too. Just Carter, she smiled. Carter chuckled, and they continued dancing cheek to cheek. The night slowly tapered down, and the pair left. They headed back to her house, and Paul left them there. She kicked her shoes off by the front door, picked them up, and started to take her earrings out. She walked to her bedroom in the back and placed the shoes in her closet. She stepped into the living room happy to be able to take the fancy clothes off now. I better get going. Carter leaned in and kissed her. You're beautiful. Love you and good night. Izzy put her hand on his face. Good night, honey bun. Carter smiled and walked out. Later, Carter received a text, quietly got up and pulled on a pair of jeans. He stepped out the front door and to the driveway where Paul was waiting for him. Dude, I can see how you fell for her. She's hot. Paul chuckled. No doubt. Carter chuckled. You have something? They're just about positive it's her. Obviously, they could be completely certain, but they're about as certain as you can get without DNA. Are they going to do anything? Carter asked, dreading this time, but knew it would come eventually. Not yet. They're working on another lead, and we'll decide when that's exhausted. Look, Rob with the FBI, there's something with that dude I don't trust. Would you call me when you hear anything? Of course, Paul walked back over to his truck and opened the driver's door. I would have anyway, because that man is, oh, it was the night before Christmas Eve, and Izzy had gone overboard as usual. I thought you were just making your mom's bread. Carter looked at the spread before him. It's just 3 different dishes. Izzy looked up at him a little guilty. I just made a lot. There's no way we'll eat all that. Izzy shrugged. I'll freeze some of it, and we can have some of it on Christmas Day. She turned and looked in the oven. The bread is rising. I can start baking that in about an hour. We can leave about noon and head over to their house. Carter told her, right now, let's have a drink. Carter pulled out the Jack and a couple of cans of Coke. The good stuff. Izzy smiled and they sat down at the kitchen table. Once the food cools, I'm going to put it in the fridge and we can warm it before we leave. Carter glanced in the corner and saw a wrapped package sitting on a chair. What's the gift? He poured them both a drink and pushed hers over to her. You know that night we went to the Veterans Assistance Ball? Izzy questioned and Carter nodded. The photographer took a picture of all of us together, so I got in touch with him and bought an 8x10 and had it framed. My parents will love that, Carter smiled. That's the idea. Izzy smiled and took a sip. She glanced over to the living room to see Winchester walk by with a wrapped package. Win! Carter turned to see what she was upset about and laughed as the dog dropped the package at his feet. Dog, you kill me. A look of guilt overcame the dog. His ears went down and he dropped his head. Izzy didn't want to fuss at the dog. I'll win. Do you want to open it? The dog started wagging his tail. Okay, you can open it. Izzy smiled and the dog tore into the paper. The dog soon trotted over to his oversized dog bed to enjoy the rawhide bone. That was one of the funniest things I've seen, Carter laughed. He opened the package on command. She walked over to him and sat on his lap. I love you so much. She squished his cheeks together and made fish lips. I'm just crazy about you, little lady. He drew heavily on his Texas twang. This made Izzy laugh. The two soon called at night, but knew they would see each other early the next day. DD. With that, Paul left, and Carter went back inside. They arrived at Marie and Greg's just on time. They had a great time and enjoyed all of the fare. Marie insisted Izzy send her the recipes of the dishes she brought. Also, her and Greg loved the picture. Izzy and Carter arrived at her house with at least a week's worth of food for Marie. I don't think we'll have to cook for the next 2 weeks. Izzy joked as Carter's phone rang. My mom will do that. Carter chuckled and looked at his phone. It was Paul, which concerned him. I have to take this. Carter stepped outside and answered. What you got? You have to get her out of there now. 3 of Antoneff's men are landing at DFW in 5 minutes. You have about an hour before they're at the house. Paul reported, and for what Carter could tell, he was quite concerned. We'll be waiting. I'm direct. Carter stated as calmly as he could and hung up. He walked back inside and stood at the kitchen island, watching her put the food in the fridge. Who was that? You don't have to go into work, do you? Carter sighed. Abby. He waited for a reaction. Abby, I know who you are. Her heart started racing as she reached for her concealed handgun under her shirt. She pulled it out and pointed it at Carter. She looked on the counter where he had placed his open wallet. She could see his U.S. Marshal's badge and commission card. She left the food sitting on the counter, holstered her gun, and walked to the back of the house. He followed right behind her. You're Marshall? He could tell she was crying as she walked into the bedroom. Yes. Why tell me now? Why after all this time? She asked as she walked into the closet and retrieved 2 suitcases. She threw them on the bed and started to dig things out of drawers in the closet. 3 of Antoneff's men, he looked at his watch, just landed at DFW. What? Abby stopped what she was doing and looked up at him. How did they find me? We don't know, but they just landed. Carter told her. She returned to her work, placing guns, money, and prepaid cell phones in the small suitcase. She put clothes in the other. I'll bring you into the office. Carter offered and followed her as she dragged the 2 suitcases and left them in the living room. She walked to the garage door that lead into the kitchen and grabbed an ice chest. She pulled it inside and started placing the food from the Christmas Eve dinner in it. She pulled a picnic basket out of the pantry that was full of dried and canned foods. She put both in the living room next to the suitcases. She opened the garage door and started putting the things in her truck. She then went back to the bedroom and pulled a strong box out of the closet and grabbed her laptop. The laptop was put in its bag, and both were brought to her truck. "What are you doing?" Carter questioned her. "I'm running again. What does it look like?" she said as she continued to gather things. "Come in with me. I'll take you to the office." Carter tried to rationalize with her. "I tried that once, and it almost got killed." He could see her wipe some tears away. "Did you follow the rules?" She stopped and looked at him angry. "To the letter, I never broke a rule. Also, did you know the secondary rally point was compromised?" The secondary location? Carter was shocked by this and knew that meant only one thing. Yes, the secondary location. She looked around her house and knew in the heart of hearts that she would never see it again. She grabbed the dog's leash and called him over. She attached the leash and walked to the garage. "So, you know what that means, and having that marshal's badge doesn't make you any safer in my book." She opened the door to her truck, and the dog hopped in. Carter walked to the passenger's side and climbed in. "What are you doing?" Abby looked over at him, just wanting to leave, even him right now. "You're not leaving without me." Carter was serious and stubborn. She sighed and closed the door to the house and opened the garage door. She fired up her truck and backed out. "Here's my cell phone. Put it with yours in your truck." She watched as he took the cell phone and then grabbed the dog's leash. "What are you doing?" "You're right. We need to ditch the cells, but you won't leave without the dog." He stepped over to his truck and threw the phones in the front seat, closed the door, and locked it. He then walked back over to her truck, climbed, and then called the dog in. She backed out of the driveway and glanced over to see the garage door was closed. She soon hit the interstate and headed north. She stopped at the Oklahoma border and pulled out 2 cell phones to charge. She got back on the road and continued driving. "Was it real?" Abby asked without turning to look at him. Carter knew instantly she was crying. "Yes, of course it was." "How can I know that?" She glanced at him. "How do I know I wasn't an assignment?" Carter shook his head. "You'll never believe me." "Try me." Pushed him